Welcome to the MSDW Podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we talk to Gus Gonzalez, a six-time Microsoft MVP and the founder and CEO of Dynamics 365 services firm Elev8 Solutions. As a founder, Gus has charted his own path to serving customers, and some of his choices are a little unconventional, like his willingness to take on fixed-fee projects. But Elev8's work is grounded in years of experience around what works for Dynamics customers and partners. We'll discuss Gus's experience in the field, his decision to found Elev8 Solutions, the Microsoft MVP program, Gus's own podcast, the CRM MVP Podcast, and the Dynamics 365 roadmap. So stay tuned. All right, Gus Gonzalez, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So you're the CEO of Elev8 Solutions, but you didn't just appear there. Obviously, that's come after years of work in the CRM technology space and many years in the Microsoft space. Can you tell me about sort of how the business formed and sort of how you found yourself in this role as CEO of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like a lot of people that work in the world of Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365, I fell into it by accident. I used to work at a company back in 2006 where I was a consultant for implementing anything Microsoft makes that has the word server on it. So Exchange Server, ISO Server, Windows Server, etc. And the company wasn't really big. We only had a handful of consultants in Miami where I lived back then, and I was also essentially the IT administrator or the IT director. So the CEO of the company back then said that they wanted to implement a CRM system as we were growing. And since we were a Microsoft shop, they decided to go for Dynamics CRM 3.0 back then. And since I was the IT director or whatnot, they tasked me with the installation of it. Obviously, we approached it like we approach any other Microsoft product, which is, it's an IT product. We're going to implement it and we're going to figure out how to configure it and all of that. So we didn't get any help from any partner, or I didn't read any manuals or anything. I just installed it and struggled with it. And obviously it went horrible. The project went horrible, but that's how I got started with Dynamics CRM as an administrator, essentially, implementing it and learning as I went. And since then, I've always had this sort of career that grows. From there, I went to an actual CRM partner where I was the technical lead. So I led implementations. From the technical side, I didn't do anything. With the consulting side, figuring out business objectives and dealing with customers, I mainly interacted with the IT department on the other side. So all of that experience that I had with other Microsoft solutions and servers really helped me have those conversations with the CIOs and the directors of IT or whatever it is at the customers that we were having. We only did on premise back then. So, I also had all of this background on other technologies like Citrix and Cisco and so on. So I could have really broad conversations about, what we needed server wise and capacity wise for the implementation and how that implementation was going to affect or interact with the other solutions they had, whether it was a Microsoft solution or not. So that was my job there for a couple of years. But I always liked interacting with people, and interacting with IT is cool, but I wanted to really dive into the consulting side and really understand why companies buy Dynamics CRM, what are the objectives they wanted to achieve with it and so on. And there was really no position for me at the company where I was, and it was because mainly they focus on the legal space. It was law firms mainly, and I have no background with law firms. So I decided to go to another partner as a consultant, and eventually I became a senior solution architect there. I was there for about 4 years, and again, just like I felt the need to really go and do things a little bit differently. Like when I was a technical lead, I felt that I really needed to interact with customers and think about it from the business point of view rather than just the technical point of view. When I was, at my last partner before I started Elev8 Solutions, I always had ideas on how to make things better. And the ideas came not because of just me thinking one day, but it's right after doing projects over projects over projects. I've done over 200 implementations by now. And one thing that I realized is that on regardless of the industry and the customer size, there's a specific set of qualities that companies have that when they have those qualities, the project always was awesome, right? So every time I got one of those companies, I got excited. I'm like, okay, this project's going to be awesome. They're going to be involved. They're going to be highly successful. I always got excited about it. So I had this idea one day and said, well, what if you could create a company that only worked with companies like that? That rather than be like most partners where, if you selected me as a partner, I'm going to help you regardless. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to be selective about the kind of companies that we work with and only work with companies that agree to sort of those terms and those characteristics. And that's why Elev8 Solutions was born. And we're almost 3 years old now. We're going to be 3 years old in October, and we haven't broken that sort of agenda of working with companies that fit that profile of what I consider to be the perfect organization to receive Dynamics 365. And we're lucky to find plenty of companies that want to do that. We love working with companies like that. And I had you as a guest on my podcast, and I talk about how other partners are highly successful working with companies who don't fit that profile, and that's because there are companies out there who don't fit the profile of the Elev8 Solutions customer, but it would fit the profile of what another partner's customer is, and they're highly successful as well. So that's how it all started. So it grew over time from admin to CEO, kind of. Everything was growth along
Yeah.
the way.
Well, that's such an interesting way of looking at it. The idea that you're looking for certain characteristics in your customers and being fairly strict about it. It sounds like. Can you give us some examples of some of those characteristics that, and maybe how you figure out that a company is a good fit for Elev8?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, for us, like one of the most important things that you have to have as an organization in order for us to work with you or for us to work together is that you need to want to be involved. We're not the kind of partner that likes to just get paid to do the work and then at the end of the project just tell you what we did. I've done that before a bunch of times working for other partners, and the results are mixed. Some companies you can spend a couple days with them and they get it and they take ownership and they're good to go, and that's when they have really good people that can do it. But then you have some other companies who are not really good at the technical stuff or understanding picking up things just in a couple days, and they struggle, right? It's just not enough. And you have those customers who continue to get back and say like, look, I know you explained this to me, but I just don't understand how to do it. And that's a big problem. So one thing that I found out is that every time I work with a company who wanted to be involved in the process, they want to understand why decisions were made. Why did we create 5 business units? Why did we create 10 security roles? Like they just want to be involved in the decision making. Those companies needed almost no training at the end. They knew exactly how
Mm-hmm.
everything works. They can take ownership for it. So that's our essentially rule number one is you need to be involved. If you don't want to be involved, if you want to pay somebody to do all the work and just sell you what they've done, there's a bunch of partners out there that are really good at doing that. And that's why I mentioned earlier that other partners are highly successful because they deal with companies who want that. They look, I just don't want to get involved. I just want to tell you what I need. We spend all this money writing this 50-page document that tells you exactly how many fields to create and all of that. We're not like that.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to be involved. We want you to know why we're making decisions. We want you heavily involved in it. And as a matter of fact, every time we do a project deployment, the project team has members from both the customer and from us. So everybody that is deploying the project is involved in both organizations. We all work together. And I think one of the biggest reasons why we like doing that is because, again, it forces you to be involved. But the other reason is because everything we do is fixed fee. So we have no interest on delaying, an implementation or, doing more work than what's needed. We always go for, okay, we believe this is the right solution. Let's work together to make it happen. And that's the advantage of fixed fee. Once you get the budget approved and we agree on what needs to be done for whatever amount of money, then it's all about making results and we don't have to worry about anything else.
Boy, that must make some partners shudder when you tell them that that's the way you guys operate. Because I know a lot of consulting firms that bill hourly just absolutely refuse to take fixed fixed fee projects, kind of for the flip side. And maybe that's maybe that's partly like you said, firms that can handle the customers that aren't good, that wouldn't be a good candidate for fixed fee, are also the firms that have the services to support those kinds of firms and bill them for it, for
Yeah, and
the excess.
we've had some pretty good debates and conversations with other Microsoft MVPs as well. Neil Benson, for example, from Australia,
Mm-hmm.
is one of the people who are the most against fixed fee. But
Ah.
that's because, he approaches different companies, and they work with different companies. And some of the projects that they're involved in are multi-million-dollar deployments that are huge, whereas we're more from the point of view of, I don't want to boil the ocean. Let's break it into phases. Let's go one phase at a time. And the lessons learned in phase one, we can apply them for phase two. And we take this methodical approach where even if, in one phase we clearly misscoped it and it ends up being a lot more work than what we thought, we can adjust that for the next phase and not be completely in a nightmare. So I
Yeah.
understand that for some partners it's just impossible because they're used to just going into this project deployments without really understanding why they're doing that. Whereas we spend a lot of time understanding what are the business objectives. I don't really talk too much about the technical side of it. I just worry about, okay, what are the reasons or for what are the reasons for you to acquire Dynamics 365? Is it because you want to increase revenue from existing customers? Is it because your divisions are having trouble communicating and that prevents you from upselling or cross-selling with other products that you may have? Or like, what is it? I need to understand the business outcomes that
Mm-hmm.
you expect from deploying this thing. And then once you do that, it's easy to break it into phases and go at it in a fixed fee model. For us, it works. I understand that it doesn't work for everybody else. I think it's a lot easier for us to go into a model that is time and materials. But I really, really believe that nothing in life, like, can you name any other thing that is time and materials besides like consulting? Like everything you do, like today I got a haircut, for example, it was fixed fee. You go get an oil change, fixed fee. You go buy, food, it's fixed fee by the pound, by the unit, by whatever it is. Everything in life is fixed fee. I just don't understand why we can have consulting as a fixed fee. I just don't see why not. And so far it works for us. I understand that it doesn't work for everybody, but we love it and our customers love it too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to the last time that I heard of someone offering fixed fee, and in the dynamic space, I really can't think of any others. I know I have seen it. I mean, like I had told you when we talked on your podcast, I've been in the consulting world. I had seen some very carefully defined projects that were fixed fee back then, but they were extremely limited scope. Do you find yourself saying no very often?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think that because our customers are involved in the project, they understand what's included and what's not included.
Uh huh.
For example, they will see if, okay, there's an integration to a system that we didn't really talk about before that we really need to achieve this outcome. They understand that we can do a change request and make it happen. Most of the time, what ends up being is that things are get rolled into the next phase. So if we're working on phase number 3, for example, and we realize that we really need an integration, we just say, okay, we'll do it in phase 4. Now, these phases are, again, we go live and we start the next phase, or it starts within a couple weeks or whatever it is. We try to make it seem like a big project, even though it's broken into different parts. So, we don't really find ourselves saying no, no, we won't do it. We just say we'll absolutely do it, but we'll include it on the next phase. And that seems to work well. In some cases, you end up including things. I I'm trying to remember if we've ever done a change request on the last 3 years, and I can't think of one. So we either typically include the functionality because it's minor, like, okay, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we forgot that we need to import the CSV file. Okay, well, that add like 1 hour. I'm not gonna create a change request for that. Let's just do it, and we do it as part of the fixed fee. We don't charge more for it, or we move it into the next phase. So that's typically how we go about it, or we create a new scope of work and it has a fixed fee attached to it, and we go at it as a side project. So sometimes, I'll give you an example that happened lately. We were doing a project for a company where phase one is their sales
Mm-hmm.
workflow, essentially. And as we're starting to work with them, the customer service team, which is using a separate system and all of that, they see our meetings and they see how we operate, and they're like, we think we can use Dynamics for customer service too. We never talked about it. But as they get involved, and starting by the CIO gets dragged into this, into the conversations for the sales solution, which is Dynamics 365. He starts seeing how you could benefit other departments. So they came to us and said, can you give us an SOW for customer service? We did. They signed it. We assigned another solution architect, and now we're running these two projects in essentially at the same time. So it does happen like that, but we don't say no often. I don't know
Hmm.
if we should say more often no, but we just once we set an objective, we go for it. We don't
Yeah.
really look back.
It almost seems the reason I asked is that it seems like if you got the wrong client, it could get messy. But the other side is um, that you could. Well, I guess sort of separate from saying no is that there's if a company is not sort of sharing the vision that you put forward, that there's sort of a need for some organizational change, perhaps. Because I mean, what you're talking about to me sounds like identifying companies that have set themselves up for success and
That's
the
right.
ones that don't. I mean, I've talked to folks who are more more sort of organizational change people or management consulting focused, and it's that organizational change that can be such a hurdle. Do you find yourself playing that role, or is that really where you will sort of maybe you separate yourself and say that culture has to be there? um,
Yeah, no, I mean we find ourselves playing that role once in a
mhm.
while, and I just wanted to clear up the idea of not saying no often. I do say no a lot during the qualification phase. So we do
Okay,
have
yeah.
leads and customers who come to us, referrals, etc. That when we start talking to them, we realize that they are not going to be a good fit, that they don't want to be involved, or they say, yeah, I really want to be involved. And when we say, okay, do you have at least 4 hours a week to work with us, or at the most 4 hours a week? And they say, yeah, I don't know. I have this other SharePoint project going. So some weeks I'm just not going to be involved at all. Well, now we know that we're not going to be able to deliver on time, and we hate not delivering on time. So because of that, sometimes customers are not a good fit, and we do say no. So just to give you an example, over the last 3 years, every single customer we've had, it's still our customer. We've never lost a customer, but we've lost plenty of opportunities to companies who don't qualify, whether it's because we say no or because they realize that we're not a good fit. We've had difference in opinions that have led us to lost opportunities, right? Where I say, no, I think you guys are doing this wrong. You're trying to boil the ocean and do sales and customer service and project service and all this stuff at the same time. I think we should
Hmm.
break it up into phases and go at it in a iterative manner, which are best practice. We've done hundreds and hundreds of deployments like that. And they say, well, no, we want to do a big project and that's what we want to do. And okay, well, sorry, it didn't work out. So,
Yeah.
I think that's what has prevented us from growing at the pace of some of these other CRM partners. But, we don't worry about growth and all of that. We worry about the success of our customers. And I think that the fact that we've never lost one is a good thing, to have until now, at least. I don't foresee us losing any customers soon, because we do, our team does such a great job qualifying them. But, that's really our main focus. And I think that's why we have those fixed fees. But
Hmm.
to answer your original question about sometimes the culture is not there, that's true. And we've been really lucky to have really good training when it comes to that, and that's actually one of the episodes I was thinking about recording on my own podcast, which is, well, what do people like us train on? If we're trainers and we're teaching other people how to use Dynamics and all of that, what do we do for training? So I take training. I love taking training, and one of the most important trainings I've had a couple of years ago or a few years ago was a training about change management. And there's an episode coming on the podcast about that. But change management is really what helps you get sort of immersed into the culture of a company and help them understand why they need this change and what needs to happen to make it successful. So we find ourselves playing that role all the time. And we were not born really good at it. It all came with training and just doing it over and over again.
I look forward to hearing that one. I love the topic of organizational change and organizational performance. It's this, it sort of straddles the two areas of psychology and business in such a sort of a weird way, weird way where you're dealing with like serious psychological, pain points at the same time as business process, and trying to make them both work at the same time, depending on the scenario. So it really is its own discipline, in large part. And I can't, I've never really wanted to be, maybe let's say, a change management kind of role, but I always appreciate a good change management case study, or or success story, I guess you'd say, because they're fascinating, to really see someone, or see an organization go through the pain that sometimes is involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those skills that once you gain, it helps you really anywhere. And we learn by attending pro side training. That's the
Hmm.
training that I attended, and it's highly regarded as one of the best, if not the best, change management training out there.
Okay.
And I I realized that the sort of the steps that they teach you on how to approach change help for your life. They help on in government. They helped on organizations too. So it's one thing that I've noticed, and the mistakes that I've made myself in the past, is that I sometimes skip steps. Right. So there are you'll hear it on podcast number 10, which is coming
Hmm.
in a couple of weeks. Is that there are 5 steps to achieve success with change management, and what happens a lot of times is that people skip them, skip steps. They start in step 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and that's when you struggle. It's still possible to be successful, but you struggle with it. Whereas if you follow a system, then you do it every time for every client, whether they're on board or not, and your chances of success heavily increase.
And I wanted to shift gears a little bit, because I know there's another component to your business that you've told me about a little bit before, and that's not just serving sort of CRM customer or Dynamics 365 customers, but also you do some work with other partners in the space. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yes.
And that's a little
So
bit different.
it is a little bit different. So, like I said, we've been fortunate to have people within the team that have been working with Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365 for many years. I started back in 2006, and I'm probably the least experienced solution architect that we have, within our team. We have Ulrich Carlson, which is known as a CRM chart guy. He's been doing CRM
Oh
for
yeah,
over
Ulrich.
15
Yep.
years. Michelle Eldridge is another solution architect.
Mm-hmm.
Believe she started working with CRM back in 2005, and she was a developer. Like, she has all these other experiences I don't have, and she's our portal expert. So we have this sort of breadth of experience that even for a small company, it's pretty impressive. All of the experience that we've been able to gain by working with, for other partners and other people in the past and other organizations. So what we've noticed is, or Microsoft noticed, is that we can be a valuable asset for other partners who are maybe not as senior, or who would like to get another opinion on deployments they're doing. So here in the US, we mainly work with other partners as sort of their solution architect's brain, right? So we come in into potential deployments, and when you do the solution architecture for partners, or you're an advisor as a solution architect, it doesn't really matter if the client is going to be involved, and like all of the things that I talked about on what makes an Elev8 Solutions customer great. Doesn't matter when it's for another partner, because they already did their due diligence and they selected the customer that is okay to work for them. Our job is to simply come in and come up with the best solution to make that implementation successful. So we come in and we provide solution architect guidance and training. Between the three of us, we've done over 500 deployments. So we come in and we help out on that. So every time a partner reach out to Microsoft, whether they are big or small, sometimes these are really, really big, multi-billion-dollar companies that want to start into the Dynamics, space. They want to start a practice, whatever it is. They reach out to Microsoft and they say, "Hey, do you have another partner out there who will be willing to come and help us out at the beginning, getting our feet wet and getting the practice going?" And so, I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones, but Microsoft reached out to us a couple times, and based on the feedback that those partners provided, they kept on reaching out to us. And so now we've developed this sort of, side practice where we help partners succeed based on the experience that we have. And from that also came the training and readiness, which is I don't know if you were going to touch upon that, but we also do a lot of training for partners.
Yep.
We
Yep.
we only do training for users that work for our customers, right? We don't have any
Okay.
public user training out there. We believe CRM User Group does a great job with that, and other companies out there. So we're not going into that arena, but there are not a whole lot of organizations out there training partners on how to succeed and how to effectively sell Dynamics 365, how effectively demo it, how effectively implement it. So
Yeah.
we've been able to do that for partners, all over the world, pretty much, especially on emerging markets. So we've been able to do that, and we take a lot of I guess satisfaction on knowing that the bumps in the road and the negative things that we lived through on the last 10 or 11 years can help someone, can benefit someone, so they don't have
Yeah.
to go through the same. So we really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I think a point you made to me at one point, just in passing, was partners, um, they're so busy sort of serving their customers that they're not finding the time to necessarily do a lot of self study and get up to speed on their own. If you have 20 CRM consultants, to get them all to get up to speed on the latest software, it's impractical, right? And bringing in a team of trainers who can kind of get them all up to speed on the things in the next release. And for, I mean, certification's a big part of it too, right? To get them all, moving in the same direction and get the right number of certifications that the company needs. It's key, right? I mean, there's a real need for that.
Well, yeah, and I just don't think that the common consultant solution architect that works at a partner is aware of all of these resources. I certainly wasn't. And I was a Microsoft MVP working for the last partner I worked for before I started Elev8 Solutions. I had no idea that there was a Dynamics learning portal where we can go and learn from other experts, for example. There's dozens and dozens of courses there that are recorded and created by
Right.
experts, not by Microsoft, by other solution architects, Microsoft MVPs, etc. Go out there and they teach you how to write custom reports, and they teach you how to do data migrations and all of this stuff that can make you better, so you don't have to make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. You can go and get it from someone who already learned from their mistakes. I had no idea that existed.
And is
And
that the Microsoft hosted sort of learning management portal for partners that you're talking about?
correct. It's
Okay.
called Dynamics Learning Portal. Dynamicslearningportal.com is the easiest way to get there.
Okay.
And every CRM partner, essentially, or every Dynamics partner, has to pay a membership to be a partner. And that membership includes access for all their employees to Dynamics Learning Portal for
Right.
free. Oh, well, not for free, but they pay one membership a year, which I believe is
Yeah,
something
it's
like
kind of a
$1,000
nominal.
a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's less than $100 a month for all of your consultants to have access to it.
And
I
I
mean,
believe
it's
they just revamped it,
unbelievable.
didn't they? I've been meaning to
Yeah,
actually dive into that a little more.
they
But
they they have a great team. They keep adding features to it. You can create your own learning paths, for example. So
mm-hmm.
if you're in charge of bringing up consultants and sort of training them, you can create a learning path and say, okay, you're a brand new consultant. I need you to take these 16 courses in order for you to be able to, learn a bunch of stuff about Dynamics 365. You can just put them in there on a learning path. It keeps track of their progress. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the other side of it, which you mentioned, certifications, there's two things about certifications. One is certifications are needed for you to be a silver partner or a gold partner. But when you look at silver partner and gold partner, from my own opinion, and this might not be for everyone, the toughest thing to achieve to become a silver and a gold partner is really the revenue goal that you have. You have to sell, just to give you an example, to become a gold partner, you have to have $300,000 worth of license revenue for Microsoft. So
Right.
you have to sell $300,000 worth of licenses for Microsoft. That's an average of $25,000 a month in licenses. That's a lot of licenses that you have to sell. So if you're a brand new partner, selling $25,000 per month of brand new licenses it can be really tough. So that one is tough. When it comes to the certifications, the numbers are minimal. To get silver, you have to have 2 people within your team who are certified, and to get gold, you have to have 4 people to get certified. So it's not that hard to achieve the certification requirements. However, where the certifications matter, which I don't think a lot of people know this, is that the number of certified people that you have internally connected to through the ELP and connected through the Microsoft system essentially to capture who's certified. Microsoft keeps a score of readiness and essentially preparedness score behind the scenes. So the more certified people you have, the higher your score is on their system. So when someone reaches out and says, "Do you have a partner who you recommend in, just to pick something, Las Vegas, for example," Microsoft can go into the system, look for partners in Las Vegas, and realize who has the higher score. The higher score meaning they have the most qualified people for that particular asset. So if they're looking for sales or customer service or field service, whatever it is. So that's how Microsoft uses that. So I think the mistake that a lot of partners make is that they get the bare minimum, the 4 people they need or the 2 people, depending if they're going for silver or gold, and then they stop. They say, "Okay, we don't, that's it, everybody, we got 4, don't worry about it." And unless one of those 4 leaves the company or dies, I guess, I don't know, they never really try to help or encourage the other consultants to go and get certified. It's not for them. It's just we need the bare minimum to just get to say on our website that we're gold or silver or whatever. Whereas I think that's a mistake. I
Yeah.
think that you should try for all of your consultants to be certified because it will help you behind the scenes with Microsoft, but also because the certifications are put together by professionals, not by Microsoft. They pay essentially consultants, people with tons of experience in hundreds of deployments or whatever, to go in and write down questions that they believe people need to know in order for them to be a consultant or a developer or whatever it is. So I believe that there's value on it, and I completely encourage, 100% encourage people listening to this that don't know about Dynamics Learning Portal or that didn't know they have access to all this training and that they should be getting certified to go and get after it. I mean, it's really important.
Yeah. Would you like to see practice managers for CRM practices or business owners for partners nurturing or encouraging their employees to try to become MVPs, or at least try to become real subject matter experts more than you see now, or do you think there's a lot of motivation already?
Well, I just feel that, I think that managers, like you said, practice managers may have the wrong incentive when it comes to asking people, their consultants or whatever, to go and get an MVP award. I certainly can't speak for every single practice manager out there, but I feel that most people who want to encourage their consultants and stuff to get the MVP award, they do it because of a financial reason, right? If we have an
Mm-hmm.
MVP or 2 MVPs or 3 MVPs, it's going to be better for us. We can win deals that way. Whereas for me, because I'm an MVP and I happen to be a practice director too, I see it from the point of view of how much I learn by going out there to the forums and answering questions, by researching extensively about a topic that I was going to speak of at a
Yep.
conference or whatever it is. I learned so much by trying to be an MVP and by maintaining my status as an MVP. I've been an MVP 6 times now, that I see the value on the learning. And I believe that having that expert level of learning helps our customers and helps us maintain that elite level of CRM partner anyway. So I don't see it from the point of view of the financial side. I think obviously the financial side is good to have, but when I encourage my guys to go out there and get it, I do it legitimately thinking about how much they're going to learn and how much they're going to help the community grow. The perfect example is Ulrich as a CRM chart guy. Most people wonder, like, why is this guy not an MVP, right? He's been sharing a lot of stuff for a long time, way before he joined Elev8 Solutions, and I continue to encourage him to do that, because every time he has to sit down and spend 4 hours learning something new, the Microsoft released some new functionality about business intelligence, and because he has to write an article, he learns that stuff. That's good for us. For
Oh
Elev8
yeah.
Solutions, it's good that he's an expert now on Cortana Intelligence or whatever it is that he wrote about. So that's really my focus when it comes to encouraging people. And I know that there are practice managers out there that share that same vision and they do encourage their people to chase that MVP award or whatever it is, because they know they're going to learn a ton by doing that. But I do think the vast majority do it for the wrong reasons. In honest Just to be honest about the whole MVP award, and I know that most MVPs probably don't share this with me. I really feel that whatever your reason is to get the award, I know that there are people out there that are explicitly going for the award. They're saying, I'm doing just what I had to do to get it. Or because you do it because you love sharing, or because you do it because you're getting paid. It doesn't matter what's your motivation to do it. If you get the MVP award, it's because your contributions make you the most valuable professional in the community. You're helping the community succeed. And as long as you're sharing with the community, you're making us all better, helping us learn more and sort of elevate our level of proficiency with Dynamics 365, I think you deserve it, right? And I know there's some old school MVPs who see it as in like, well, if your manager's encouraging you because, they want to just sell more or whatever because you're an MVP, then you don't deserve it. I disagree with that. I think that it doesn't matter what the reasons are. As long as you're being an asset to the community, you deserve it, then you should get it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Gus. If you're putting in the effort and producing the types of output that Microsoft expects, to match up with the qualities of an MVP, it's hard to say that you shouldn't get it just because you're suspicious of their motivations or what set them on that path.
The one thing I will say though is that if you're listening to this and you say, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go out there and put a bunch of stuff out and do all this volume of activity just so I can get my MVP," please don't do it on the wrong way, which is by just retweeting a bunch of stuff that other people did, or
Right.
by posting daily stupid comments expecting that now you have 365 activities in the year, because you posted something on LinkedIn or whatever it is. Like, just add value to the community. Write up something on how you benefited from using SLAs, or talk about how the new knowledge based functionality works better for these kinds of articles, or whatever it is. Like, give us your insights, your experience, not just adding noise. There's a lot of people out there sharing stuff in addition to all the stuff that we get from Microsoft. So we don't need more noise. We need quality.
Yeah, I've only known a few people thinking back on it who I've known who have said I'm going for the MVP award, or I want to get it this year and I'm gonna, so I'm sort of planning a path to it. But it certainly can be done. But the people who do that and then achieve it, they're people who frankly deserve to achieve it. And everyone wasn't an MVP before they were an MVP. So I think, and it's a program that continues to impress me. I think it's one of the real assets that Microsoft has in its ecosystem is this group of people who they've recognized for the kind of these kinds of contributions. I mean, I know they sort of tweak the program and change it in sometimes weird ways, but that I don't understand. But overall, it continues to be a really strong program. So
Yeah, I love it, and I love interacting with other MVPs from other products. These are people who are passionate about what they do, and I mean, I love the MVP family, and again, I encourage everyone to go for it. If you want to become an MVP, it's because you're going to be adding a ton of value, so go for it.
Yeah, I actually found out recently that MS Dynamics World is on some kind of a list of places where you can sort of one of the places that you can count toward your sort of contribution. So if anyone's thinking of writing an article or anything like or putting together an educational presentation, hey, we are on the list, and I think Microsoft does track that stuff pretty closely. I don't know how long a list. I know there is a sort of a set of places that they do consider worthwhile contribution sort of destinations, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of the very first peaks, honestly, that I've gotten into the program. It's always been very opaque to me. I think it is to a lot of people, even MVPs, that they don't exactly know the decision-making process, and they get word of the award being given to them. But it's Microsoft keeps a lot of it under wraps.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and the funny thing is that as you get into the program, you continue to try to find ways to sort of cheat the system a little bit. For example, one thing that happens every July 1st is that we're supposed to get renewed. If you did enough, within the last 12 months to maintain your MVP status, you receive the MVP award again. It's a yearly award, so people lose it every year.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last year we didn't lose somebody. So since I've been on MVP, so we continue to lose people in July because they haven't done enough or whatever it is. We don't know what enough is, but and we have an internal MVP alias where we communicate, and I haven't seen anyone who's lost their status sort of complain about it or say that it's not fair or that they really did enough or anything like that. It's always been, yeah, it's true, I didn't do enough comparing to the things that I've done in the past, and I deserve to lose it. I'm going to work hard to earn it again, and that's good. But the funny thing is, when July 1st comes, you're supposed to get an email saying that, hey, you have been renewed. Congratulations on your 2018 MVP or whatever it is. But those emails don't come in at 12:01 a.m. or whatever. They
Right.
come in
And it seems
at
like
some point.
and they always seem to land in people's junk folders or clutter folders. Isn't that?
For
It's
some
like
reason.
torture for people. They just
Exactly. So the funny thing is that you don't really know when it's going to happen. And so it's like mind games. Like I jump on Twitter and the tag is always MVP buzz, right?
Yep. Yep.
So I go on Twitter, I go and search for MVP buzz, and I start sort of reading the tweets from everybody who's getting their emails, right? And then the funny thing is that you start looking at their profiles to see where they are. Like, oh, this guy's in Germany. Oh, this guy is in whatever, Miami. So you start seeing like, okay, is it geographical? Do they do it by product? Like, okay, he's an Azure MVP. Maybe
Checking
they
the
go
world
by
clock time zone.
alphabetical, by
Yeah.
product. So
Mm.
I'm going to be business solutions. So I should be next. So it's sort of messing up with your brain. And you always see people trying to find a way to find out earlier, like before you get your email, if you're going to be an MVP.
Yeah.
Sort of changes every year. Like sometimes somebody will post like, okay, log into your MVP profile, go to here, whatever, settings, click next, whatever. If you see a dot right here, then that means you're going to get whatever it is. So it's always a game to try to find out if you've been renewed or not. But yeah, before you become an MVP, everything is obscure. Nothing makes sense. No one tells you anything. If people submit your name to become an MVP and you don't get the award, you don't get on, I'm sorry, keep working hard. You
No.
need a little bit more of this. There's absolutely no feedback whatsoever. So it can be frustrating for people. I'm glad that when I received my award, I wasn't actively working for it. I can imagine that someone who's working for it every month on the first, they're desperate to get it, and it must be a disappointment. When I got it, it was every 3 months. And
Right.
when I knew I was sort of gonna get it is I went to Convergence, which was in April or March, April, back then. And I talked to some people at Microsoft from the community where I was like, number one, answer questions, number one, post, number one, everything and activities and whatnot. And they told me, hey, we put your name for MVP. You should get it in July. So I was like, okay, that's awesome. And sure enough, I got it in July.
Nice.
So I didn't have to wait and go through that. But I can imagine for people who've been waiting for a long time, man, it's got to be tough because you get nothing. You either get the award or you get silence. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah, good to know. And I've heard a few anecdotes over the years, not too many really, but a few that of Microsoft, very specifically having their eye on certain people for whatever reason, and they sort of will help foster certain people through the process if they think that they should be an MVP for whatever reason. They'll sort of help get their application through and sort of encourage them a little bit. I've heard of cases like that, but not widespread by any means.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you can certainly see some people who are, rock stars for 6 months, and they feel like they've done enough in 6 months
Okay.
that they deserve the award or whatever
Yeah.
it is. But I've seen Microsoft replying to people like that, saying like, man, you joined the community 6 months ago, and you already think you deserve a year awarding people for 12 months worth of activities.
Huh.
Like, just keep working on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
So
I've also I remember I know I've heard from at least like one or two people who, they lost the award, but they were fine. They knew that was coming because they had other, like, for example, they just knew they weren't going to be able to put in the amount of attention that they knew it took for the MVP status. That for whatever reason in their life, they were something with their career, something with their their personal life, and they just knew that wasn't going to happen for them this year. And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense too.
again, I believe that the MVP program is awesome and
Hmm.
they do a great job with it. I do criticize it sometimes. There are things I don't disagree with, but they're minimal things. The biggest thing that I normally criticize, and I mentioned this to my MVP lead, is that I don't understand the whole point about your contributions to the community have to be, I don't want to say free, but you cannot be paid for them. So I make the argument that if I want to hire somebody here at Elev8 Solutions, a full-time employee, to blog about dynamics for free to the community, why would they not deserve the MVP just because I'm paying them to do it? I don't understand that part. And the reason why I said that, and that might be a stupid example, but the main reason why I say that is for people like you and Tony Stein, for example, who's the director of CRMG. Tony Stein is an unbelievable asset to the CRM community by essentially being the leader of the largest CRM user group in the world. And he's not eligible because he gets paid to manage the biggest CRM user group in the world. Like I don't know if that's fair.
Mm.
As long as the work that you do is not for sale. Like if I hire you, Jason, and I pay you a salary for you to write books and we give away all these books about Dynamics 365 that benefit the community, you deserve the MVP award. It does,
Mm.
in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid to do it or not. As long as you're doing it for free for the community and you're elevating the level of skills and proficiency, then you should deserve the award. So that is one thing that I don't share with the MVP award, program, that only the contributions that you've done not only have to be free to the community, but you can also not be paid to do it. It has to be on your free time. It has to be separate from your job. I'm not really understanding
Right.
the purpose behind that, but I'm an MVP and I support them if that's a decision they want to do. I think that it shows that you went above and beyond by doing it on your spare time and all of that. But at the same time, I think that if you stand out in the community by doing outstanding content and helping us, making our lives easier and our jobs easier, I don't care if you're getting paid to do it, man. As long as you're helping me out, you get the MVP award.
That's
That's what I think.
interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's that's a perspective. For me personally, I'm perfectly fine not being considered for an MVP. But yeah, I mean, if they were to broaden it, they do seem to be very careful. I mean, when decisions roll out about MVP, you can tell someone's been trying to make a change for some particular reason, and I honestly don't always. I often don't understand what it is they're going for. Like when they, for example, I think early on when I started this podcast, they had just made the change where all the Dynamics related product MVPs became business solutions MVPs. And I even talked to a couple of other, Dynamics GP and maybe Nav MVPs about this at the time. And I never understood what the rationale was, was there. And I still don't completely. But, that's not, it didn't change. To me, it didn't, whatever the reason for the change, it didn't sort of, change the quality of the program. It didn't change its, sort of the approach that people take in sort of holding the award title either.
Right.
So I was fine. So for me, I just kind of said, all right, well, you want to call them business solution MVPs? Sure. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but didn't really matter to me. I couldn't really appreciate what the change really represented.
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, if I think about the little piece of criticism that I just mentioned, it's not like we have hundreds or thousands of people out there getting paid to contribute for free on the community. So it's not really a problem. It's like a non-issue. Like I said, I can think of specific examples of a couple of people out there that is their job to elevate the community, but this is not a widespread problem. So that's
Yeah,
why it's
yeah,
not,
it's something you could maybe
it doesn't keep me
communicate.
awake at night. It's sort of like I disagree, but
Yeah.
it's not, it's a non-issue, right?
I did want to maybe get a little feedback from you. We're coming up into the fall or the autumn for anyone listening in Europe. Um, and that means, hopefully some new product news and, obviously some conferences where there'll be a lot of talk about what's new, what's coming up in the roadmap. I just wanted to ask you, are there any, feature areas or product capabilities or new technology that you're particularly interested in right now? And just get a little bit of a take from you on what you are excited about these days.
So for us, and this might be something that applies mostly to us, as Microsoft pushes into this one commercial, partner platform, and the way they restructure themselves, they're really pushing for organizations to, sort of focus on a specific industry or vertical, right? They really want people to build IP and to not just build a bunch of experience with one solution, but build a bunch of experience in one solution for a particular industry.
Right.
So since we have been involved in the professional services industry for so long, we decided to focus on the professional industry. So anything that has to do with professional project service automation or the professional services industry, it keeps us excited. Anytime we hear about new improvements and integrations with Microsoft Project or whatever it is, we get excited about that. As we work on content and sort of new ideas and creating our own IP, we find things that are missing in PSA and project service automation for Dynamics 365. And we keep talking to Microsoft about, since we're building with them, keep talking to them about ways to improve it. So I'm really looking forward to that. But in more general terms, not just in what excites me because we're doing professional services, in more general terms, Microsoft hasn't really acquired a company in a while. So,
That's a good point.
obviously they acquired LinkedIn, but I'm talking about Dynamics 365 related, especially. They haven't acquired any company in a while, so I wonder what's coming. I've been saying that one area where they could improve is on their data integration capabilities. So acquiring a company out there that has some really good, SSI data migration, integration, connectivity, or whatever it is, would be a good asset for us partners on the
Mm-hmm.
community. So that might be something exciting. But just going by the last acquisition, which is the LinkedIn acquisition, obviously I'm really excited about them furthering the sort of increasing the integration with that platform. I went through training for social selling or for
Mm-hmm.
relationship
Relationship sales.
navigator, yeah, relationship sales. And when I went through the training, which I did at the LinkedIn offices in Chicago, I saw that they had a lot better integration with Salesforce, for example,
Okay.
that what they had with Dynamics. So when I saw what they're doing with Salesforce and I saw how that could be much better done in Dynamics 365, I immediately got excited about the future. So I can tell that what we currently have, which is essentially a sort of an integration with the Sales Navigator in an iframe kind of
Right.
solution, which is already exciting because we didn't have that before. I mean, that's going to be unbelievable in a couple of years. I just think about Microsoft being able to mine the data in the same way they mine the Exchange data right now with Relationship Insights, where they can take a look at your interactions with customers and tell you if your relationship is going up or down, or how long are they taking to reply versus how long they used to take a month ago or a year ago or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. So it really helps you sell more, and it helps you find out whether a relationship is going downhill or not, and how do you keep up with it. So that functionality is unbelievable, and it's all intelligence and communication between Dynamics 365 and Exchange. So imagine that functionality at the LinkedIn level. And I understand that there are some, I guess, they have this Chinese wall of separation between LinkedIn and Microsoft, where LinkedIn is going to keep operating as a separate company and they are not closing their APIs to other CRM solutions, right? That was,
Right.
from what I understand, and I didn't get this from LinkedIn. I'm just rumors. From what I understand,
Okay.
one of the conditions for the acquisition was look, we're not going to make this exclusive to Dynamics 365. We're not going to shut down a large percentage of people out there that could use our services. So let's say if Salesforce has 20% of the market, 30%, I don't know, then we're not going to essentially close it to 30% of our customers, right? So, I think that I don't know how deep Microsoft is going to go with the integration, but there's definitely a lot of space for them to make that better. And if I can have a system who not only tells me my relationships are going well or not or whatnot, but that it tells me when, for example, the CEO of one of my accounts is now the CEO of another account, that the fact that the decision maker in one of my opportunities just changed jobs because of LinkedIn, like all of those little moves within companies can help you tremendously. I mean, imagine if you're in an opportunity, then typically your cycle to close an opportunity is 8 months, and 2 months within the opportunity, the main decision maker leaves the company. I mean, unless you're calling constantly, you don't know that. But if LinkedIn could tell me that, that would be great. And not only that, who within my team knows somebody at any specific customer or whatever it is, like that, those capabilities, having that built in into Dynamics 365, which right now you can do with Sales Navigator, but having it built in into Dynamics 365, I think is going to be amazing. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. And the main reason why I can speculate is because I don't know. Because if they already told us what they were doing, I would be under NDA. I couldn't share. So I'm speculating because we don't know what's going to happen, which is exciting.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that too. So thanks for sharing that. And Gus, yeah, thanks for joining me today. This is fun. We chatted a little longer than I even expected, but yeah, it was fun to be on your podcast a few weeks back, and this was just as fun having you on mine. So we'll have to go through some cycles here over time and do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jason, for having me. And yeah, everyone listening in, definitely send in any questions or comments that you have. Reach me out at Gus Gonzalez 2 on Twitter, and obviously at the CRM MVP podcast, which Jason was our last guest, I guess. With a new episode coming up every 2 weeks. But yeah, so if I think people know how to find me if they have any questions, and I'm looking forward to doing this again.
Excellent. We'll put all the links in the summary for this one too, so people know how to get a hold of you, of Elev8 Solutions, of the CRM MVP podcast, and everything else.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good one, Gus. Thanks.
Thank you.
This has been the MSDW Podcast. My thanks to Gus for joining us today. If you have any comments or want to reach out, you can reach me at jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World signing off.